There are quite a few opinions out there regarding certain aspects of music, none of which can be settled by one man alone. So when big questions arise, I always turn to and debate with one of the greatest musical minds on the internet, myself. Today's debate is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon versus Pink Floyd The Wall. This is Marty versus Marty. Hey Marty! Hey, thanks for driving me over here, by the way. No problem, but to be fair, we took your car. Well, you know what they say, what's mine is yours. That's so true. But let's get to it, Marty. What's up, Marty? Well, you know, I do think it goes without saying that Pink Floyd is one of the greatest psychedelic progressive rock bands to ever exist. So true. It's amazing how they were able to have so much mainstream success given the ways they experimented with sounds and composition. I couldn't agree more, but I have to say the greatest example of these traits can be heard in their mind-blowing concept album, The Dark Side of the Moon. I mean, I love Dark Side as much as any madman can love an album, but there's no question in my mind the greatest Pink Floyd album has to be The Wall. I find that hard to take, since Dark Side of the Moon is basically flawless from beginning to end. It takes you on a musical journey with each track, one leading seamlessly into the next. The way the band experimented through composition in this record is unmatched in my opinion. Now, do you really expect me to just sit around and listen to looped synthesizers for most of an album? I mean, no thank you. The Wall actually rocks. It's got some of the greatest hooks the band's ever written. Even the nonsense dialogue's a hook. Is there another album out there where someone yelling about pudding is one of the most memorable lines from the album? Listen, if your main point is that you like the shouting bits in an album, I don't think you're really off to a good start. Sure, The Wall had some memorable moments, but Dark Side's a masterpiece from beginning to end. It perfectly encapsulated the tone of the band and basically established a new genre of music. Dark Side was a true turning point. But Marty, you could say the same thing about The Wall. This album was a true amalgamation of everything Pink Floyd had previously released. And at the end of the 70s, this album didn't just sonically pay tribute to the past, it also showed that Pink Floyd still had something to offer. The tone of this album, it went on to inspire many successful artists of the 80s, 90s, and even today. But The Wall could have easily accomplished all those things without being a double LP. You gotta admit, the album has some filler, whereas Dark Side is all killer. Each track expertly sets a mood and takes you on a journey in a unique way. I find myself getting bored by the time I've climbed over the front half of The Wall. So you're telling me you're bored during Comfortably Numb? That track is easily one of the greatest songs Pink Floyd has ever written. Has an absolutely beautiful build, emotional chorus, some of the best soloing ever, and it's easily their best song lyrically. Yeah, but can you name any of the 5 songs before or after Comfortably Numb on that album? I mean, the D side of that record's basically useless. Dark Side of the Moon builds to a satisfying conclusion. And Marty, that's not all. It may be the best reflection of the cultural moment in which it was born. Their use of analog synths, creating trippy soundscapes, along with lyrically tackling the fading ideals of the 60s, this album perfectly captured the zeitgeist of the early 70s. Now that may be true, but even with The Wall's length, it tells a pretty epic story. The way it sets up the protagonist, gives him his backstory, and shows how that affects his life later, causing him to ultimately isolate himself from the world, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time inspiring. All I learned from Dark Side of the Moon is a few interesting points about time and that I need money to be happy. Man, Marty, you totally missed the point Dark Side's trying to make. It's about the progression of life, the human experience and empathy. It's a deeply purposeful album, but that's not the only reason it exists. It allowed the band members to dabble with risky musical excursions they weren't able to take in the past. The Wall just sounds like the band trying to recreate their previous successes. Come on, Marty, they weren't trying to recreate, they were building upon where they had been, brick by brick. The Wall has its flaws, but ultimately its tracks are more memorable than the ones on Dark Side of the Moon. The Wall is unabashed and daring. You just wouldn't understand. Your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying. You've become comfortably numb. Oh, Marty, I can't stay mad at you. I guess we'll never settle this. Yeah, you're probably right. Should we ask the viewers to keep this debate going in the comments? I can certainly get behind that. So head on down to the comments and let us know which album you think is superior. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe. You know what would make me feel better? Going shopping. I couldn't agree more. Do you want to hit up Jason Mraz's lid shop first? You know it. Let's go! Thanks for watching. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we should switch to top hats. I find that term confusing. Aren't all hats technically top hats? Well, the hat I have on now is on my top, right?